Today is my pressure canning tutorial. I am with my sister and we are doing ground elk today. I hear the process is the same for all ground meat. So let's learn how to pressure can meat.
Well, hello and welcome. So we have pre-cooked our meat. There's no recommended safe way to raw pack ground meat. It's because it sticks together. There's no guarantee that the pressure will get all the way through the jar for ground meat. You can raw pack cubed meat, stew meat, but not ground beef or ground meat. In this case, we were fortunate enough, my husband is a hunter and we did get an elk. So this will be shelf stable. We're gonna can it in water. You can can it in broth, tomato sauce, but canning it in boiling water makes it versatile. You can throw it in a casserole, in a soup, drain it and make taco meat out of it. It just makes it a very versatile, very quick when you didn't plan anything for dinner. So I'm gonna get the jars out of the dishwasher that have been on sanitized mode and we'll start getting those ready to go in the canner. So today we're using pint jars. You can use quart jars if you want a larger amount of meat at a time. For pints, we'll leave 1 inch of head space at the top of the jar. Same for quarts. The difference is these will process in the pressure canner for 75 minutes. Quarts will need to be 90. And we'll get them in the jars.
And do you fill them all the way to the top, or you're going to leave a little airspace there, head space?
You'll want to leave 1 inch of head space, which is about the bottom of the threads on the jars for a good rule of thumb.
Perfect.
Since I predominantly just cook for my husband and I just use pint jars. It comes out to about 2/3 of a pound by the time you add your canning liquid, which in this case, boiling water. But it is about perfect, like I said, to put in a soup or turn it into a quick taco night dinner.
And we'll poke it like we did when we did the salsa video water bathing, just kind of get all the air bubbles out the jar.
We'll debubble it after we add the water. We'll do about 8 pints today. This is about, I started with 5 pounds of ground meat that I pre-cooked, and then I put it in this pot to keep it warm for canning. And we'll adjust our head space because I have to have a little bit of head space for the jars to seal. And I put too much in some and not enough in another, so we'll just you can boil water in a kettle. Mine just doesn't hold enough to do 8 jars, so I just used another pot to warm boiling water for the canning liquid.
Okay.
And I add a 1/2 teaspoon of canning salt to each jar. That's optional. I just prefer a little bit of salt. I think it gives the meat just a little more flavor. If you're canning quarts, I would recommend a full teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon for pints.
Awesome.
This is our first time canning with our new puppies. So far, they're being quiet. They were not a minute ago.
They're fun.
So I'll apologize if we get some interruptions. So we're gonna debubble these just to make sure there's no air pockets. Because under pressure, you can explode a jar or one won't seal. So we just make sure there's no air pockets. Clean off the tops of the jars in case I dripped water or meat so that there's nothing in between the lid and the top of the jar to cause it to not create a seal. Oh, I forgot the salt. My bad.
Different, a little bit different than water
Thanks. And again, just finger tight on the rings because you want any little bit of air to escape while it's in the canning process, so it'll make a seal. Today we're using our All-American canner, which holds 8 pints on the bottom row. You can double stack it with a rack in between, but I have never done that. It's just a comfort level for me. So we've got our 8 pints of ground elk in our All-American canner, and the water does not need to go above the jars for pressure canning because it'll be under pressure. The All-American canner does not have a rubber gasket between the top on the lid, so I don't know if you can see it on the film, but I have a thin layer of olive oil around the rim of the canner, and that'll just help my lid seal so that when we go to bring it up to pressure, it will do that. I have pre-warmed the water so that the hot jars are going into warm water so we don't shock the glass and cause a break. And so I'm going to put the lid on here. I'm going to reach across. Here we go. So this is a weighted canner. So after the water comes up to temperature, we'll put our weight on, and at our elevation we're going to put it at 15 pounds pressure, so it'll do 5, 10, or 15. So this will go on here after our water starts boiling. We're going to tie down our wing nuts. No tools, just hand tight, and we want to try to have the lid level. Although I've messed it up before, and it's fairly forgiving, gratefully. So I try to get the lid level, and these little wing nuts hold the lid down. Other styles of pressure canner just have a seal on the lid that you tighten. So again, just hand tight, no tools. And we're going to turn the heat on high and let it come to a boil. We want a steady stream of steam coming out of this vent for 10 minutes. And we'll come back to you when we reach that level. So that sound is that toggling of our weighted pressure canner, and that tells us that it's at adequate pressure to process our ground elk. The gauge on the left is just a guide, and that tells us when it reaches 0 pressure. So it's got about 8 minutes left to process, and then I'll turn the burner off. I'll wait for the gauge to read 0, and then I can take the weight off. And I'll have to wait 2 minutes after the weight comes off, and then I'll be able to remove the lid of the canner and lift the ground elk out of the canner to cool. And once it cools, we'll make sure all of our jars seal, and we'll label them with our contents and our date. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you again soon.
Well, thank you so much for the pressure canning lesson, my sister. Now I know how to can meat. So much more to learn. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe for more homesteading and nature videos. Take care.